Welcome back to another episode of Projecting Grandeur. I am your host, Ron Dichter. Thanks for tuning in. You are in for a really special show today. We've got a guest that is coming to us who's got a ton of experience as an entrepreneur, I should say even a serial entrepreneur, RevOps architect, and a founder and CEO of a company called Peddle that I want to dig into. Please help me welcome, I'm already botching it up here, Italo Leiva. Am I got that right?
Yeah, Italo Leiva. Yep. Thanks,
Italo Leiva. I was working through this and I knew I was going to struggle, but I appreciate you correcting me there.
Yeah, no worries. Like I said, I think I told you at one of our previous conversations, I get both a lot. I grew up in the South, so the name is Italo. It's very Italian, but in the South, people hate saying accents. So a lot of my friends I grew up with call me Talo, so both work fine.
We'll go Italo to start, and hopefully by the end of the show, everybody will call you Talo. We'll be all friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Here.
There you go.
All right. Well, let's dive right into it here. So just kind of some backstory, like your journey, as I was reading about your background, really spans diverse industries. You've been in SaaS, you've been in healthcare, you've been in e-com. I'm curious about like the pivotal experiences or challenges that helped shape your approach to really building systems across all these different verticals.
Yeah. I have a healthcare family, so I think I had a single mother, immigrant. She came here, didn't speak the language, and it was super motivational. She learned the language, went to school, got a 2-year nursing degree, then got a 4-year nursing degree. They changed that. Then she got a master's degree, and then she got a nurse practitioner degree, and now we have a site practice together. But so through that, I kind of always thought healthcare was the best thing to do. So I kind of started on healthcare. As most immigrants, I think you want something kind of like concrete. So I was pre-med in school. And then I was a guitar player. So I played guitar and gigged on the side. And I happened to like invent color-coded guitar strings and wrote a software that colored sheet music so I could learn faster. And then the rest was history. So that was kind of like the split where I went into kind of tech and entrepreneurship, just out of like a fun project. I was trying to learn how to play songs faster for myself. And then and came with a product and it worked really well. So I took it to market and learned along the way kind of thing. So that's where the split happened. I was actually pre-med at the time, taking MCATs, was going to go to med school. I was in my senior year of college, and then I had an opportunity to go to an entrepreneurship competition, and I won it. And then I won funding, and then went to one in Boston as well called Mass Challenge, and then made the finals there and got these really cool coaches, and my life just kind of changed.
That's really cool. And as a very novice guitar player, I'm going to need to pick your brain later after the show here. So you've helped a lot of different companies grow from, getting started to 20 million to 70 million, even 100 million in ARR, which is impressive.
Yeah.
Like when you're building out these engines, are there foundational principles that you consistently use around all these different standout successes you've had?
Yeah. There's a couple. So the first thing is like you have to sell how people buy. And so I tell people like, I can't start a Blockbuster today because nobody's going to come rent DVDs from me. Right. So, that's kind of the number one. And so however people are buying it, to kind of figure out how to sell to them and where they want to be served and where they want to be sold and try to be cutting edge with that. And then and reverse engineer from there. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is like money is trust. So the more somebody spends, the more trust they need and the more touches you have. Right. So if you're selling something that's under $5,000 a year, or, $50 a month or a couple $200 a month, people are usually okay to pay that online without talking to anybody. They'll just sign up. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, as long as they can cancel within 30 days, they're good. So you can really streamline your revenue and do product-led growth, which is like one of the companies you're talking about, Do It, we helped out. They had like cloud services. They were reselling Google Cloud. Then they added a product for product-led growth. And because they already had so much buy-in, it was easy to scale like a self-service checkout. So just turned their sales up to 100 and went from like, I think it was like $5 to $7 million a month to $30 million a month in a few months, because they already had an audience. They're an existing company. The slowdown and throttle was like the sales team having to hop on calls. When they made it self-service, it was super easy for people to buy in, use it, and then scale themselves from there. So that's the second thing is money's trust. The more expensive, the more touches. If it's cheaper, you can just like let them self-service and make sure you have enough for them up front. If it's more expensive, you need to curate an experience that you build trust along the way to the sale. And that's kind of the foundation of like your sales pipeline and your actual steps you have to do to get someone to buy. And once you've repeated that 50 times, you just automate it. So really not rocket science, just, systematic.
Yeah. I think a lot of our audience is going to know this term, but I might want to double click into it. So when we talk about RevOps, right, which is kind of the real power and on what you're talking about here, like number one, maybe explain just high level RevOps to our audience here, but also how do you turn, friction-filled things, where just there's tons of resistance into these sustainable, high-efficiency growth engines?
Yeah. Yeah. So RevOps is a newer terminology, and I looked into it because I came from revenue cycle management. That's actually more popular, more common. It's in healthcare. So revenue cycle management in healthcare is like the process of going and getting your money. Because if you're a doctor's office, you get paid by insurance. You don't get paid by the customer, right, or the patient. Very rare does a patient come in and give you $5,000 for a surgery, or like they use their insurance and I pay a $30 copay. But if you're living off of that, it's gonna be a tough time. And so you have to really systematically go and get the revenue from the insurance companies, and they don't want to pay you. Like, so it's a really big process of how to do that. And so I was lucky enough to have that in my background, doing doctor's offices my whole life and being in healthcare my whole life, where I kind of already had a process for how to kind of track my money and hunt down getting paid for doctors. And so I was able to apply that to SaaS. And so that's what RevOps came to be eventually, is it's the process of tracking your revenue and systemizing that. But it got to software way later. It was only in healthcare before this. And so what it is in modern day, that's one is this principle is getting your money systemized, right? The revenue pipeline. And then two, it's aligning your marketing, sales, and service teams. And then three, if you have recurring revenue, which is the best kind, because your recurring revenue of compounding, returns, right? Like compound interest, and that's the quickest way to get rich, which is why software is one of the best businesses, right? Like it's monthly subscription. So if I get 100 subscriptions every year I have compounding returns. And so there's a couple of things: aligning your marketing, sales, and service team. So like your acquisition revenue, there's three levers here. RevOps is like, how do I grow these three levers of revenue? Acquisition, which is new logo. So that's marketing and sales team. They work together to bring in leads, and the sales team says this lead's good, it's qualified, and then they close them. So you align those two teams, and with shared KPIs, they have a shared skin in the game, and that's acquisition revenue. Then you have retention revenue, and that's aligns the sales and success team, where it's like, hey, we sold this guy something 6 months ago. It's time for renewal. 3 months later, 6 months later, year later, and now they're at renewal. Let's make sure that they want to renew. So were they happy? Did we, what did we promise them when we sold them something? What did the sales team promise them? And did they get that? Did the service team deliver that? And if so, and they're getting impact, they're going to renew. And so how that works is like, I tell people like why Netflix has a top 10. If every time somebody goes to pay their bill, they want to get impact. Like if you pay your light bill every month and your light bill is out that month, you're not going to pay your light bill this month. You're going to complain about it. Same thing with your water bill or anything else. So with Netflix, back in the day when they didn't have their own studio, they would get shows from other people, and people would churn. Like, hey, it's the same shows for 6 months now. It's terrible. I don't want to, you would leave Netflix, come back later when they have better shows. Now they have a top 10 every month. So that every month you got to pay that bill, you're getting new value. You're getting the return on investment every single time. So that's like the best way is to give a ROI, give impact, give return on investment or value every time they pay the bill, whether it's monthly, quarterly, annually, and especially before the renewal of the bill if you have annual contracts. So that aligns the sales team and the service team to make sure you sold them the right thing and you delivered what you promised, and they know that. And then the teams are aligned. And then you have expansion revenue. People who stay with you year over year, what you'll find is companies don't want like more tools or more agencies. They want to work with like one or two people that they trust. If they trust you, they're happy to do more with you if you know how to do that thing, right? And so once you have a lot of data, you have 30, 50, 100 customers, you can start anticipating their needs because you kind of see the data coming in. And so this aligns the service team and the product team. Expansion revenue is like, hey, you've been here for a year, 2 years. You want to start upselling them to more enterprise level. If their business is growing, you're helping the business grow, then they should be spending more with you as well. So like, what else can I do for this company? Because I have 30 of them and I can see what their needs are. What else can I add on to my product to make this better for them, the experience? And so that aligns the service team and the product team, where the service team says, hey, here's our best 20% of customers, 80-20 rule, and what are they needing? How can we help them? And that the product team then goes and does that. And then I have these upsells and expansions. And then that loops kind of back the flywheel to the beginning, where the product team now has a new product or expansion tool or upsell, and you send it back over to marketing to take to market, and then they market the new thing, and now it kind of goes around again. So it's like your flywheel, your internal flywheel, like how to make your business better and how to make your customers happy. And if you do all these every step of the way, there's a feedback loop every week of like what's going well, what's not going well for each team, so they can get better every single week. So it's not like a one and done. It's like just an iterative process of how to get better every week with the feedback.
Done that a time or two. You know that pretty
Yeah.
well. I like that. So I've read some stuff about where you warn against mistaking tech for strategy. And I'm curious, as you start guiding leaders, to ensure that their strategic vision aligns with this, like how do you make sure that they're driving the tech to drive their business and not the other way around?
Yeah. So it's funny because we all start the same. Like, unless you're like a serial entrepreneur who's done it 1,000 times, you have a lot of capital, you're like an Elon, you kind of can start at the top. But if you're a new startup or new founder or you don't have a ton of funding, we all start the same. You start with like product to market fit. And even before that, it's like problem to solution fit. Like, I know how to solve this problem. I used to do it at my day job. I can do it better than these guys. I'm gonna go do my own thing. Right. And so, you start your problem solution, and you usually do that as a service to people. And then once you kind of perfect that service, you productize it or make a tool that automates most of it. And you have product market fit. Then you start selling it to these people. And so we all start by doing the product and then trying to sell the product. But after a certain amount of time, what you'll notice is that you miss a lot of systems along the way because you don't know what's going to work, what's not going to work. After you figure out what works, like, hey, I know my product. I know I want to sell on Facebook ads. It's the best way to sell, or Google ads, or cold calling, whatever the best way to sell is. Once you've developed that framework and you know it works 9 out of 10 times, and the founder can then hire someone else to do that job, you document what you do and say, hey, like, here's what I do. It works 9 out of 10 times. I have it as a system. And when you go to hire someone else to do that, that's your process. Now, when you start out, you can't really do that. You kind of do it, you kind of guess until you figure it out. Once you figure it out, you have a process. Then you start reversing the system where instead of just guessing and then building a process later, you now start with the process. Say, hey, okay, now I know this works on Facebook. So now I'm gonna do the same thing for Google or cold email. Like, here's the messaging, here's what they care about, here's the decks. And you then start with the process and you write that process out. And then you use documentation, enablement stuff to train people on that process, and then you get tools to automate that process where possible and track the success of the process. Then when I go to hire somebody, that person I need to hire needs to be capable of reading the process, using the tool, and understanding how to do that process. At the beginning, I get why everybody kind of just uses tech as like an accelerator and just kind of throws it in there. Says, I want to do it this way because of technology. But over time, once you have a proven process, the better way to do it is to write that process down and figure out what are the checks and balances I need to do this at scale. So like, if I have a bunch of sales reps selling for me in this channel, I want to know how many leads were called, emailed, et cetera, every day, every week. What tool does that? So the process now goes first because I know the process works. I don't want to curate my process to a tool. I have a proven process. I want to get a tool that enhances my process. So that's kind of how it flips once you have a proven process.
I like that. Well, let's talk a little bit about, is it Peddle? Is that how I say your company's name? Yeah. So let's talk about Peddle and specifically their AI revenue engine. It's basically for HubSpot users, correct?
Yeah.
And basically what it does is it makes your pipeline AI driven. So I'm curious, like, as you think about the human mindset and design work behind that tech first appearance, like, just tell me a little bit about that whole process.
Yeah. So, I've done the consulting for a while and I wanted to productize it so a team could do it without me, as you mentioned, and, what tool works the best for that. And, HubSpot was definitely the winner by far. And then, so, we did it on HubSpot. And so kind of Peddle came to be about is I wanted to scale the consulting past me a few years ago. So we built a team and we made it a repeatable process. So we had to keep it in one tool. So it was easy to learn. Also, I think it's just the best tool in the market for this. We could always use in Salesforce and other things, but for now we're just HubSpot. And then, and so we've deployed bow tie models for people, which is like the revenue operations recurring revenue model. It's called the bow tie model. And so it, puts emphasis on the retention and recurring revenue, where a lot of people just kind of, after the funnel's done, they're kind of done. Like, hey, I sold it, we're out. You want to make sure the right side of the funnel is strong because, you want your customers to be your flywheel. Like, every happy customer you get, you want them to tell people about you, get another customer. And that's how you build a flywheel. Every happy customer brings you more customers. And so then the founder can kind of step out. And so we've been deploying this model for years, and it's worked really well because it's probably the state of the art best model to date that people use for startups and for recurring revenue. And so we were like, well, how do we enhance this now that we have this proven process? Like, how do we accelerate this, automate this, streamline this for businesses? And so what we did is we partnered with a company called Synapsa, and Synapsa is like it's like a AI email tool and scheduling bot. And so it can schedule people for you, it can reschedule for you. And it looks like a normal person. Like, it doesn't just send you a calendar link. It asks like what times you're available, checks the calendar, puts it on both. You can, and it also just nurtures leads inbound, outbound, and on the website. So as you have this proven process, you know what questions people are going to ask, where leads are going to come from on your website, what to do when people no show. You can train the bot on that material, and then it'll just handle that for you and push them through the pipeline. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is we have a call tool called Ask Elephants, and they're awesome. And so they're like any other call recording tool with AI, but they've taken it a step further. There's like a HubSpot agent in there as well. So when it hears things, it'll just update your records for you. So like as I have a discovery call, I'm like, hey, what CRM do you use? Like HubSpot. I'm like, cool. The bot would just update the record for HubSpot, and it kind of just pushes it down the sales pipeline. So instead of your salesperson having to go do all this work inside of HubSpot, which they hate, it just does it all for you. Like as I do the sales call and I ask the questions, the bot will update the record, and as the properties get updated, it moves it down the pipeline for you. And then you have automation that sends the quote based on the answer to questions and all those things. And as they respond and have questions back and forth, the AI agent responds to them and nurtures them through. So that way, salespeople can really focus on the high leverage activities, which is the call and closing the sale. Everything else gets automated, so they can focus like 100% of the time on closing.
Wow, I just a quick follow on that. So I'm imagining data integrity from like the C-suite standpoint is way cleaner
Yep.
since you're not relying on a sales rep to
Yep.
input it in this scenario.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And to
yeah,
our point, for the bow tie model to work, like the RevOps bow tie model is very scientific approach. So like if they don't update the records in time, it also kind of saved our skin. It's like half of this is like we help them, half of this we help ourselves. Because like we do this for clients and they're like, well, these numbers don't look right. It's like because your sales rep's not updating the records. So that's why the numbers aren't, accurate. And so this just kind of kills the whole problem.
yeah. I love that. Well, cool. Well, let's shift gears a little bit. So the show Projecting Grandeur, it's about stepping boldly into your fullest potential, maybe before even you recognize it or the world recognizes it. But I'm curious because you've been a leader, you've been a founder, system architect. Like, what does that mean to you, Projecting Grandeur, as you hear it?
Um, So I'm a very like I think servant leader type. So I think for me, it's never really been about like I'm not like a social media influencer type person. I've always been a very community service person. And it's actually done me pretty well. I think all the probably biggest accolades I've had has been me helping somebody do something more so than like me posting about something I did. Outside of that, like early competition when I was in college, I was very young for that. And that was awesome. So for me, I think it's more so is trying to be like, trying to be the change you want to be in the world for me. That's been always my thing. Like I want to, I try to create the opportunities I didn't have for my employees and people I work with. When I partner with people in businesses, I try to create opportunities that, nobody ever gave me and try to make it better than they would see somewhere else. And when I train people on things, I try to teach people things that like I wish people would have taught me along the way. So that's kind of what it means for me is just stepping into a role where I can like be the light for people or be the change or be like the hope that I wish I would have had or the mentor I wish I would have had when I was younger.
I like that a lot. Thanks for
Thank you.
that. So as you think about RevOps, just kind of tapping into Projecting Grandeur again, like how can Projecting Grandeur play a role in RevOps for individuals or teams that they want to grow with results, but also confidence and clarity, which is such a key part of it.
Say it again. I missed some of that.
Yeah, so think about projecting grandeur. Like everybody wants to project grandeur from a
Yeah,
sales numbers and a dollar standpoint.
sure.
But how do you think RevOps can help people gain confidence and clarity so that they can project that grandeur out to their teams, their employees,
Yeah.
their potential customers, things like that?
Yeah, I will say this. There's a famous quote. I can't remember who said it, and I need to Google this. There's a famous quote. It's like, I can solve any problem but a money problem, right? And it's like, I can't solve money problem. The only thing it solves that's money, right? So I
Right.
think that if we can solve the money problem, then everything else gets way easier. So I think that a lot of people's stress is usually financial, and it's financial, and it's like anxiety is like not knowing the future, like not knowing what's going to happen, right? And so when you have a little bit of cash flow, it makes it easier to solve things like sale. It buys you time. You don't have to worry about the immediate future as much. So I've always focused on revenue for startups because revenue is the lifeblood of a business. Like your business is a revenue factor. It has one goal: it's produce revenue. Right now, your product can help people do a lot of things, but the goal of the business is really to produce revenue because people need paychecks and people's families need to eat. And so I think the biggest worry for me, especially, and I know for a lot of startups, is like, these people are putting their lives on the line for me. Like, can I afford to pay them and their families and, and provide security and insurance? And so we want to focus on one problem, which is revenue, because the rest of it, they can figure out if they have enough of that. And so it buys them time to figure out the rest of it. So I think that once you have the confidence of, I like the whole goal of RevOps is one, I can predict my recurring revenue and then my inputs and outputs. If I get 1,000 qualified leads, I know I'm going to close at least 10 for $10,000 a pop. Every 1,000 qualified leads, I know I got 100 grand in my pocket, hands down. I know it scientifically proven every time. Once you have that confidence, everything else gets a little bit easier. So I think that's probably the I think the number one thing it does for people is they know their inputs and outputs now, and they're more confident on testing and have a framework for testing, and it builds the confidence there. They can step into their leadership roles instead of being reactive. They can be more strategic.
I like that. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. All right, so let's circle back to some of the things I've been reading about you. So I've read a bunch that you talk about, customer lifetime value, and you talk about plugging the the leaky bucket concept. And I'm curious, like, as you think about these concepts more broadly, how can they, really help to build something grand and enduring when you focus not just on, as you said earlier, like the initial sale, but like that lifetime value and really looking at where the gaps are.
That was an awesome question, man. Um, yeah, you did great research. Thank you. So what I mentioned before is your business is a revenue factory, right? And so there's a book that talks about this called Revenue Architecture. It's phenomenal. I got to meet the guy Jocko who wrote it. He's super cool. He's from the Netherlands, and he's got a super awesome YouTube. It's a lot of fun to watch. He's an EDM guy, so I appreciate that. Like his YouTubes are awesome. He's like doing EDM and teaching things. It's really interactive, really fun. But the guy's a genius. And so he has this book called Revenue Architecture that says your business is a revenue factory, and a factory has three goals. And so the three goals of factory are production. And so your business's goal is produce more revenue, right? Second goal of a factory is efficiency, clearly, right? No waste. And then, so your business's goal is, efficiency. And so, lower customer acquisition cost, lower cost to serve the customer. And then the last one is quality, right? So production, efficiency, quality. And your business, it's experience, customer experience. It's, whether the founder does it or the new hire does it, the customers get the same experience. And if you do that every single time, you get three things. Production is scalability. With more revenue, I can scale the business. Efficiency is sustainability. I can now sustain long term. So the question you had was, how does this help and how does plug and leaky bucket affect businesses? It's sustainability, right? If I'm always bringing in money and it's always going out the back door, or have bad spending habits, I'm not sustainable. It gives you sustainability in the timeline that you need, right? And then whatever you do for your customer experience or um, uh, um, um, your quality control, that is your durability. Like how are you going to last in the market compared to your competitors, right? If your experience is better in there, you're a little more durable. And so sustainability and durability are the two things. Everybody talks about scaling all the time, and scaling is great. But what you'll see is people scale and then it's in one door, not the other. And you spend a lot of money to scale, but you didn't make your processes more efficient. So now all the money's still gone. Like, great, I made $2 million, but my costs were 95%. So I don't have $3,000 left over. And so the sustainability part and the durability part are the things that nobody ever talks about or remembers. And so if you get all three right, you have a long-standing place in the market. And like Alex Ramosi says, entrepreneurship is not usually like first man there. It's like last man standing. So if you're there for 5, 6, 7 years, you won. It builds, like your name brand builds, the reputation builds. People know you. Like all these things compound over time. So if you can just survive the 5-year mark, most people fail at, you're going to be okay. So sustainability and durability, I think, are equally, if not more important than the scalability part. And everybody talks about scalability because money's fun, but sustainability and durability is where it's at.
Yeah. Well, I just one more question for you, and I really want to lean into the AI side of things because AI has been everything business talks about for the last, call it, 12 to 18 months now. And as you think about this, first off, fast growing AI track, but also like the hyper personalization and the AI driven workflows that you talk about, like how can leaders really lean into AI without losing that that human element that makes their vision grand? Because I know that that's something people are concerned about right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think don't put it everywhere. I don't think it's. I think that there's never going to be an exception for human experience. So I think that you don't put it everywhere. I think you put it on things that need to scale, and is like first touches or easy touches. So that's kind of the first thing. Like you want to do things that don't scale because that makes you authentic and, again, more durable. Like the experience is everything, right? So make sure the experience is good for them and ask them what a good experience is. They'll tell you. And then I think that's the first thing. The second thing is like my rule for all tools. Like it's a tool. And so the tool is meant to enhance your process that you figured out as a human interaction is what business is. So like as two people, you figured out what works for your audience, that works for you and your team and your positioning and your branding. And once you have that and you have that process written down end to end, kind of figure out where the friction is and add tools to that part, right? Don't replace every human interaction for AI just for the sake of efficiency, because sometimes the quality of the face-to-face or the quality of the experience is more important than the efficiency. So I think that you only use it in things that you have friction in. You only use it in things that you need to scale fast, and you do it based off of your process. Like I never trust AI to write things for me, right? Like I write the things and have it curate a little bit and maybe fix typing errors and add like some emojis or add some fun to it. but never like the core concept of what I'm saying. So you should already have your proven process, and it's like an accelerator. So I think that's the best way to do it. I know people have these ideas of like fully automating everything, and that could work in some industries. Like it does work for things like coding agents, stuff like that. Again, notoriously not social people, but for things that are more human, you want to keep it as human as possible and just use it for the friction points only.
I like that. Yeah, I think the world is changing so fast that people are
Yeah.
gonna, people are gonna be looking back and saying like, wow, like I either was way leading the edge and good for me, but to your point, did I die along the way or did I was I the last man standing?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
listen, I always like to give an opportunity because we've got an audience out there that tends to like to reach out to our guests. But is there a website, an email? How would you like people to get a hold of you if they're interested in learning more about either you or Peddle or
Yeah.
anything else?
Yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn. It's LinkedIn /n/ Italo Leiva. This is my full name. I don't have middle name, so full name. And then, or the website, peddling.io. We couldn't get pedal, was already taken. So peddling, PEDDLING.io. And then there's a contact us page there. So you'll see my calendar.
Awesome. Well, listen, Italo, it has been a pleasure. I do want that link for that guitar string idea you had, so that's still in market. But really appreciate you joining the show today. You've got a ton of insight, and I think our audience is really going to appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
You bet. For everyone else, keep projecting your grandeur, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Bye, guys.